Alright, so I'm just gonna start honestly from the very beginning. I mean, everything from Cascade, FB County, SEMA, Kenny, everything I'm gonna explain in this video. So it all started with Cascade almost a year before the buses even began. And we were just, between that year, we were thinking like, hey, like how do we get Cascade, up and running, very successful? Like how do we grab people's attention into the company from the very beginning, not going through the painful steps of just like putting a shirt out there, because we knew if we were just to make a flannel and launch it just like any other clothing company, it would either take very long or no traction at all from the beginning, and that's what we were trying to avoid. In addition, we're all car guys on this, all my colleagues and I, and then we wanted to incorporate what we love to do with what we're good at, which is making clothes. So then we started like thinking to ourselves like, okay, like what if we do some kind of build to like bring people, an audience into Cascade, because it seems like on YouTube a lot of builds do very well. But then we were like thinking like, geez, like how do we find a build that's like not too niche? I mean, like we're not really looking for the supercar crowd, and then we wanted to find something, a car that could blend in with many different niches. And it was just so hard because it seems like everything had been done. Like we would think of something like, oh, that's been done, oh, like that didn't get as much engagement as like we thought it would get, like that kind of stuff. And then while we were stumbling around, really struggling to find how to do this, like a good car that would work, fit in many different niches, and most importantly, like represent Cascade in like the clothing we make and stuff like that. And then it was kind of funny because while we were thinking about that, like one of us saw this video right here, and then when we saw this thing, that's when the gears started turning. We're like, okay, like this could work. Like the split window VW bus, everybody loves that car, whether like no matter what you're into, like JDM, lowriders, hypercars, supercars, whatever. Like I feel like that is such an iconic design that has never been copied, never been very modified either, that this could get people looking. And obviously, as you guys see in the video, it got millions and millions of views. So that's when the light bulbs actually came up into our heads, and we started doing the math. Like, wait a second, if this car costs this amount of money, and then we were to take that specific amount of money and then put it into ads, let's just say without any cars, just that same amount of money, and then we did the math, and we're like, okay, that wouldn't get nearly as many impressions as this viral video got right here. So, just kind of thinking common sense, if this is a CGI and it's not real, then if someone were to make it, a real version of that, it should do as much or if not even better than that video. So once we kind of got our brain wrapped around that and how much it would cost, then we were like, okay, let's do it. But then you're like, wait a second. There's probably a reason why no one has done this before, especially if this video has been like on social media for a year and no one has really done anything with it. And then you look closer into the video and you realize, okay, like the proportions of that car don't make much sense in it actually working in real life. So that kind of like, that was almost like a hit in the stomach, like, okay, this is why it hasn't happened before. But even with that said, we still, like, we're the type of people that like, dude, we're gonna make this shit happen. We're gonna make it happen. So then with very specific details, I guess you could say, that a body shop would need to figure out, we got all that in a list, and then we brought it over to a bunch of body shops asking like, hey, how do you get like this big of a wheel on a car that came with such a small wheel that it makes it look like you're sitting on the wheel, but you gotta make sure you're not actually sitting on the wheel for obvious reasons. And then we got the answers of, it's not possible, that's why it's fake, that's why no one has done it before, stuff like that. And then that was kind of like, gosh, okay, like maybe we actually can't do it. But then I came across a DDE video, and then those guys were also making something crazy that's thought not to be possible, and then he came across a body shop called KPD, and then he did crazy stuff like that. And most importantly, this guy had the tools to make stuff like that happen. Like, this was not like hand molding fiberglass or anything like that. This was like CNC stuff. Like, you get the car, you scan the whole car, you put that scan in a computer, and then you design it based off of that factual data you guys have in your computer. So we called him up and like, hey, like, have you seen this video? And then the dude's like, yeah, of course I've seen that video. And then it just so happened he is also a VW enthusiast, so he was like all over this project. He was so down to do it. Like, he moved stuff over to the side just to start it. So that's how, you know, we checked out his facility, like how he works. I'm like, all right, let's do it. We knocked down the price. And remember, this was only for one car at the time. This was only for the pickup. Oh yeah, and that also reminds me, before we started anything, we DM'd Robert 3 Design, and we asked him like, hey, you know, just out of strict respect, like, hey, do you mind if we take your rendering and try to make it reality? And then he was like, yeah, dude, like, go ahead. And you can tell he was just like, yeah, you can go and try, because I'm pretty sure like many people before us have tried before, but you know, he said yes, go ahead. And then he really started getting interested when we started seeing the project come together. And then, kind of going based off of that, we were actually talking to one of our friends at FB County, and he was like, dude, I love this project, like, I want in. And then, you know, both of us, you know, we do work in the manufacturing side of the business, meaning like we know that it's always cheaper to build more than one thing whenever you're manufacturing anything. So then we called up Kenny, and then we were working the numbers, and then, you know, come to find out, obviously you can reuse some of the stuff, some of the molds and stuff like that. And you know, when you're buying a big item like an engine, you could work a deal there. Like, hey, if I buy 2 of the same engine, let me get a discount instead of just buying 1. So yeah, that's pretty much, it's a very simple story of how FB County got involved with that. And then it just worked perfectly because Robert 3 Design made the bus version of the CGI, and then he also made a pickup version. And really quick, guys, before we continue on this story, I gotta bring you the sponsor of today's video, which is, of course, Cascade, baby! Yeah! So guys, I mean, it would really mean a lot to us if you go on our website and cop a flannel. We also have pants, hats, t-shirts, and I mean, one of the really cool things at SEMA was, you know, when people were like touching our shirts and also purchasing them, they were like really impressed with the quality of our stuff. And then I think it worked so perfect because the quality of the build was so high and the quality of our clothes was so high. It worked so well. So guys, please, originalcascade.com, go cop yourself something, and let's continue. I'm gonna list out a couple of big problems we had to figure out through the process of the build. So number 1 was the front area, the entire front area, specifically, I guess you could say suspension. So obviously, I think the bus stock comes with like little 14 or 15-inch wheels, and then we wanted to go 18 or 19, which means you increase height, right? But then the stock body like ends, the fender liner ends at a certain point. So like, okay, like how do we get the stance? How do we drop it down, but get like big 18-inch wheels on there? So what Kenny had to do was cut out the entire front suspension, front fender liner, and then CNC an entire new one, as you guys see here. And then another thing that was very difficult to figure out was steering. So obviously, we wanted to go with a super deep offset in the front, but if you do that, your steering angle, or I mean, not steering angle, your steering radius will be like just like this. And we wanted to, end of the day, like drive these on the street when everything's all set and done. So that's why we kind of have to go with just a flat look, so we can like turn, and even at that, it still rubs up there. And then speaking of suspension, the rear suspension was a problem. So normally, you know, on a normal modern car, your suspension travels directly up and down like this, right? But on these older cars, I don't know what you call it, but it travels like this, like this. So not only do you have to deal with vertically up and down, you kind of have to deal with horizontal up and down motion as well. So I was like, what the hell? And then, you know, that's just what it's like dealing with these older cars that don't have obviously the modern technology. Oh my god, how do I not forget this? So before, like when we were talking details about the build, we didn't consider on the pickup, you know, the folding down gates of the pickup part, the bed. So if you look at the viral video, it's all a smooth surface, meaning to get that same smooth surface, if we were to do that in real life, we have to completely almost cut off the whole entire back end. Kenny has to CNC an entire flat surface and stick it on there. And that, like by far, the pickup was way harder than the bus that we're sitting in right now. Then I would say I'm almost a month into the build, someone was like, hey, you guys should like debut these at SEMA. And then we didn't even think, like that was not even in the mindset of this whole build from like before that point. I don't know why we didn't think about that, but we're like, holy cow, like that's a great idea. Like we could launch Cascade there, and then as well as obviously launching both cars. So, you know, I went to SEMA's website, fill out the form. I didn't know it was gonna be that hard to get into SEMA, honestly. Like, I got a response back saying, sorry, you're not eligible, your company's not eligible to attend SEMA. But then I called them and I was like, why not? And they're like, oh, it's because you guys aren't in the automotive space, you guys are a clothing company. Even though I was trying to explain like we're on the light, Cascade will be, because remember Cascade was not launched back at that time, will be like just the lifestyle around the car community. Like, oh yeah, sorry, that's not good enough. And even if you guys were able to get a booth here, it would cost about 50 grand. I was like, oh my god, like damn. And then on top of that, you're not allowed to sell your clothes. On top of that, if you do decide to like join someone else's booth, there can't be any cross promoting in that. You could only be like only logos or anything like that of that one company who bought that booth would be allowed. You guys would not be allowed to do any kind of branding for your stuff. And I was like, what? Yeah, that type of stuff was going back and forth for about 2 months. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure like almost all builders out there were working with somebody. You know, we were butting heads with Kenny at some times, and it was hard. It was hard. I don't want to get into too much detail on that because I don't want to put anyone down or anything like that. We just are not the type of person to do that. But obviously, you know, I'm sure you guys can relate that there was some butting heads in certain moments throughout the build. Fast forwarding to when SEMA's about to start, we're almost a week away and we still have no answer. So luckily, a couple strings were able to be pulled where we were able to get a spot, not the best spot, but a spot in the featured car section right outside West Hall on the sidewalk. And again, it wasn't the best spot, but at this point, like anything is better than nothing. So we got that, and we were happy about it, obviously, because we've never been there before. And yeah, we got the car set and we headed off to SEMA. So at this point, I'm thinking, all right, car is done, both cars are done. All the shit we've been dealing with throughout the build is now done. We can now relax at SEMA. Little did I know, more stress was about to start at SEMA. So then we get to SEMA, we pull up, we start unloading the car, we go in to check in, and they're like, hey, you guys aren't on the list. I'm like, what do you mean we're not on the list? Like, we wouldn't be here if we're not on the list. And they're like, oh, like, we don't see you guys here. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I guess that makes sense because, you know, this was all a last minute thing. And then, but surely you have to have our name somewhere, right? And then, you know, after like an hour of just sitting there and waiting, they're like, we still don't have you guys, but obviously we kind of trust you guys that you guys wouldn't just show up here, so we'll put you somewhere. So that was kind of the, whoa, number one. And then the next thing that got us was like, we brought stanchions, and then we were like pulling them out, and they're like, whoa, what are you guys doing? I'm like, what do you mean, what are we doing? Well, we want to set these up so no one like ruins the car. Like the splitter, the side skirt is literally on the floor. Like, it just takes one step, one kid not to know what he was doing to crack the fender, not the fender, the side skirt, the splitter, and like, oh, sorry guys, you can't do that. And we're like, what the hell? So what are we supposed to do? Just stand here the whole week watching the car and like yeah, if you guys are really protective of that car, you gotta sit there and just stand there. So now at this point, SEMA has started, and I have to say, I was very impressed with, you know, the tons of people that were there. Like, not a single person tried to mess with the car. Everyone was very like, cautious of where they were standing and stuff like that. So like, I've never seen that, to be honest. And then after standing around for, what is it, like 3-4 days, it was time for SEMA Ignited, which I think I forgot to mention before SEMA ended up giving us the spot at the actual SEMA event. They're like, hey guys, what we can do is give you guys a spot in SEMA Ignited. It's like the after party of SEMA, and you guys can sell your shirts there. It was not cheap, but it was not too expensive, so we ended up doing that. So we got to be at SEMA as well as SEMA Ignited. But SEMA Ignited was not what you expected or what they said it was gonna be like. So our agreement with SEMA was, all right, we'll go to the SEMA Ignited thing as long as like we're kind of next to the entrance, because obviously that's where the most of the people walk. So on the map, they had SEMA Ignited semi-truck right here, and then us right next to it. Right next to it. But when we go to set up, they're totally separate from us. Totally separate across the whole parking lot. And then we're like, what the hell are you guys doing? And I'm like, oh, sorry, like, we had to make some stuff, make some changes. I'm like, dude, this is not part of the agreement. But at this point, we were just like, you know what, dude, like, at the end of the day, if SEMA Ignited is anywhere near as close to what SEMA itself is, like, there should be enough traffic to compensate for it. Let's just do it. I got the C word on that Friday when SEMA ended and SEMA Ignited started. So I was stuck in the hotel basically until we left for Vegas. But I was like, you know what, whatever, my colleagues can handle it. Like, we're gonna kick ass, we're gonna sell a lot of stuff, we're gonna have a good launch of Cascade, and all will be good. But then I get a phone call, and then they're like, Hunter, SEMA Ignited, this shit sucks. And I was like, oh my god, what are you talking about? And then they're like, I think the problem is like they have little acts going on, but for whatever reason, they have like 30-minute breaks in between the act. So most people think that's the end of the show, so they just leave. So 2 hours into the show, everyone was gone. A couple hours go by, SEMA Ignited's over, SEMA itself is over. It's time to pack up and go home. And then all of us were kind of like talking amongst each other. And then we were like, we weren't unhappy, but we were also not like, wow, like this is SEMA, like this is the hype everyone's talking about. In my honest opinion, I think SEMA is kind of overhyped in a way, and it's very frustrating, like, to see how, you know, just talking with them face to face for those 2 months we were trying to get in, like how they were not like willing to accept that like SEMA, in my opinion, is kind of veering away from trade show and then just becoming more of just like a lifestyle type of car show, which is basically the entire Silver Law. Like, I don't see any type of trade show going on out there. So that was like, come on now, you know what I mean? So yeah, guys, I mean, building these two cars was a great learning curve. Learned so much stuff. In addition to SEMA, like how shows are run and how you have to kind of move and swivel around that system in itself. But I also briefly want to touch on Cascade in general, because I know we have some people who are used to the Cascade they saw in the 90s, making similar stuff to what FB County is making. And I just want to say, like, we're not saying no to that. Like, we might at some point do like maybe a special edition or a special launch for that kind of 70s style clothes that Cascade made way back when. But right now, I mean, the flannels are doing very, very well from us. I mean, honestly, I couldn't ask for anything much more on the clothing side of it. But I also want to touch on the cars side of it. So I want to be open to Cascade. Like, we already have the clothing and stuff like that going, and it's doing very well, like I said. But I want to also give a path for Cascade in a way where it can pivot, in addition to the clothing, to more of a media side, which is why we have like these builds. I mean, I know we have the content to make a great YouTube channel. I mean, content in terms of, you know, the cars. We have like obviously the 2 buses. We have a crazy RX-7. We have that crazy 2JZ drift car. And I really do want to like build around like that side of the car lifestyle. I know like a lot of people do the supercar stuff, which we're not gonna do, or I should say not as of now. I want to like really work on like the motorsport of it, because I don't really see any channel really like embracing that culture, because that's a whole separate culture in itself. So that's why we have a lot of the race cars, and you guys obviously the Porsches, the Boxsters, and at some point I hope, you know, it's more than just me on the camera, because also while I'm on that point, the reason why you guys see a lot of me is because obviously I work with Cascade. I'm one of the owners of Cascade, so you're gonna see me regardless. And then in my opinion, and I know FB County has the same mentality too, like we're just not interested in paying a random influencer who we know who for a fact doesn't give a shit about the company. They're just in it for the paycheck. I mean, don't get me wrong, like we're perfectly fine paying influencers based on commission if they're willing to work, put in the work, you know, but push the codes, and then we give you a commission off of that. But just as far as just handing over like a lump sum amount of money to do a random post that I'm pretty sure we all know do not do well because it looks so fake. Like we are just not interested in that whatsoever. So at least coming from me, you guys know that I care so much about cars and I care so much about Cascade. So I think that will just bring more genuineness out of it than just hiring some random influencer. But with that said, I hope down the line we can find somebody in addition to me, you know, help in terms of making content and getting Cascade out there more, guys. But I think I covered a lot of stuff in this video, and I think I covered most of the details. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. And as far as like future builds, honestly, nothing's planned so far. We kind of want to see where where life takes us, pretty much. But I will say, guys, if you guys can get this YouTube channel monetized, meaning we can get the views up there and the subscribers up there, we will make something so crazy happen. Like, can you imagine? I know we have the buses, but in addition to that, you know, the double axle pickup truck that Robert made. Oh my god, that would be so crazy. And now knowing the media side about it more, I would be sure to document every step along the process, because I know that's how we missed so much throughout the whole build. Like there's nothing that documented anything, pretty much. Just like a couple shorts and reels here and there, but you know, that's nothing. But anyway, guys, I know the video's long, but I hope you guys were to get something out of it. And until next time, I'll see you guys on the next video. Like, subscribe, please. I know, do all the YouTube algorithm stuff, but most importantly, get yourself a Cascade flannel. See you guys.